Let's get more on the story. I'm joined now by Mary Ellen O'Toole in Virginia. She's a retired senior FBI criminal profiler. Mary, many thanks for joining us today. Now, we have been hearing since that shooting that this was a hate crime and a terrorist crime. What is your assessment of the shooter?
That would be my assessment, that it's both. A crime as complicated as this one was will have multiple motives. So I think I would agree with that assessment that this individual was motivated by a hate crime as well as terrorism. But I do think it's important to point out that what it appears is that his affiliation with ISIS, at this point at least, appears to be somewhat superficial. And I say that because in the past, he indicated interest in other terrorist organizations whose ideology was dramatically different from ISIS. And in the end, he settled on ISIS. So it doesn't appear that he has an in-depth knowledge of ISIS, but wanted to associate with them because they were such a frightening group.
That's interesting. And indeed, it's a narrative that he very much created himself by making that phone call to the police just before he did that shooting. What do you think can drive a young man to kill so many people?
Violence starts in the head, and it has to develop over time. And what I mean by that is the type of violence in this crime scene is very unique. It's almost a sadistic kind of violence. The shooter was incredibly callous and cold-blooded and lacked any empathy for the victims. And those are personality traits that he had well before he went into that pub. So you have to go back to his childhood and take a look at how he developed as a human being, and specifically how his personality developed. Was he capable of going into that pub and carrying that out? Because he would have to have a deficit of compassion, altruism, and empathy for the victims, on top of having violent ideation, homicidal ideation, and suicidal ideation.
And indeed, there were reports of that kind of behavior. His co-workers reported him to the FBI. The FBI interrogated him. He was under surveillance by the FBI. Why do you think they didn't act? Why did they fail to recognize that it could result in what it did result in?
Because many people can have these traits, but never act out violently. So, from what I gather, when the FBI was investigating him, he had not committed a crime. His crime occurred the night in that pub. So we can't arrest somebody for thinking violently or having violent thoughts. They had to find something, a violent act of behavior, and from what I understand, it wasn't there.
Okay, Mary Ellen, many thanks for joining us today. Mary Ellen O'Toole, a retired senior FBI criminal profiler there. Many thanks.